We got talk. It's good talk. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about what's coming at the end of the month, the end of May 2023, and you need to stick around and watch this channel because I am definitely buying this camera, pre-ordering it, gonna get it, gonna compare it with the original, compare it with some other things. Right now I'm filming on the ZV-E10 with the 11mm lens, good setup, but this is more gonna be your next big pocketable camera. I'm excited for it. Let's talk about it. So you're asking yourself, what camera am I talking about? Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to Alpha Rumors, the ZV-1 Mark II is coming at the end of the month. So let's speculate some about what's going to be in that camera because, boy, I'm excited. These point and shoot cameras are kind of coming back in style a little bit. You have the Fuji 100V, you have the Ricoh GR3, which I had returned. Liked it, but like a Q2. So point and shoot style of good quality cameras are coming back a little bit. That pocketable size is really something that a lot of folks like to have. They just so used to having their cell phones in their pocket, want to having a small little camera in your pocket too. That will work out great. So the camera industry is kind of on this like, well, we're going retro and everything. I mean, my daughter has a record player. Now Taylor Swift is selling cassette tapes. Why are we going backwards in technology? But I think what's going on is that it's kind of like a pendulum, right? We all had point and shoot cameras of some sort when we were younger. We went to our cell phones, and now we want a little bit more, and we have our big camera, maybe you have a big Sony A7 IV, something like that, but you still miss the pocket size. Even the ZV-E10 is not really a pocket size, right? It's a small bag size, but not the kind of put in your pants and forget about size. That's the ZV-1. The ZV-1's been out a little while. It's time for an update. Sony's going to give us two things, right? Either they're going to give us a little update or a big one. I would love a big one.
My mind is going a mile an hour.
But I'm being realistic and kind of think it's going to be just a little bit. Let's go back to the studio and let's break down what I think the big update will be or the minor update will be. And maybe it's hopefully a little bit between the both of them. But so it's going to get out of the woods. We'll go back to the studio and take this a little more seriously. So I want to go over what's going to be a major bump up in this camera or a minor bump up. Kind of a small upgrade of the things we know it's going to be upgraded, the obvious things, but what will really make this a wow factor? You ready? All right, I got a list. First thing, major increase would be an increase in sensor size. So they've been using the 1-inch sensor for I don't know how many years now. It's been a long time that this sensor has been around, this CMOS sensor. An increase in that of any capacity would be a big upgrade. Now, Sony is known for designing sensors, creating sensors for other companies. I don't see why they can't come up with something better than the 1-inch. I would love to put the APS-C sensor into this camera. Would I think that's going to happen? Probably not. Probably overheating issues, that kind of thing. If you want to bump up to 4K 60, that will be even more of an issue. And also it would kind of cut away at that ZV-E10 series of camera. So why would they do that? But they could bump up the sensor to make it a little bit bigger, maybe to help out the stabilization. How GoPro went a little bit taller and stuff, so it can crop in. A sensor that way, so the dynamic stabilization can have something to use to crop in. That would be a nice increase. All right, that's number one. Number two would be 4K 60, hopefully with no crop, but probably with a crop the first time. That would be a nice increase for this ZV-1 Mark II camera. So would I expect 4K 120? No, I'm not sure what's going on with Sony right now with the ZV-E1 and then now the rumored new APS-C camera, the A6700, coming out also. I think July is when they proposed the announcement. but they said also that camera would have a delayed release of the 120 frames per second. It's a little bit curious why Sony's doing this. It's almost as if they're having overheating issues and they're not sure how they're going to fix it, but they want to get the cameras out there. So a 4K 120 in this ZV would be a dream, but first let's get 4K 60 out there. So I don't expect 4K 120 in this camera, but 4K 60 definitely needs to be in there. A new lens. All right, so we have the 24-70 currently on this lens here with 1.8 to 2.8 aperture lens. Great lens, beautiful 1.8 aperture, love it. But the 24, everyone knows that's too narrow. It needs to be wider. And that's why they had the ZV-1F. They made it wider with a 20mm fixed lens for vloggers, right? So now we have another problem. We have dynamic stabilization that's kicking in. It's going to basically punch into that shot even more when you slap that on there. So this needs to be a different lens. My hope would be sometime like a 16mm to 50, same as the current, this lens right here, which is the kit lens for the ZV-E10. This is a 16, I have a little cap on it. This is a 16 to 50, 3.5 to 5.6 power zoom lens. I would love to have a 16mm to 50, 1.8 to 2.8 lens if that's possible. So it has to be a wider lens to handle all these new punch-ins and crops-ins, from the 4K 60 to the dynamic stabilization. Everyone needs to crop in. We need a wider lens. And that comes into another thing. Will it keep the ND inside of this camera? I don't know. That I'm not sure about. I would like to have it in here, but I also would like to have ability to screw on a ND filter to the front. So whatever type of zoom we have coming out here, like on this camera, everyone adhesive stuff on here to make a contraption to have a wider angle lens. If you're going to take the ND from us, please give us some way to screw on an ND filter to the front of this lens. And then we can screw on other things to make it even wider if we need to down the road. But give us that option on this next camera. Also, another big increase would be if they threw in the AI chip into the ZV-1 Mark II to increase autofocus, same as the ZV-E1, to capture the body, eye, all that kind of stuff. I'm hearing, I don't have the ZV-E1, but I hear all the reviews say that the autofocus is incredible. So throw that into this camera, that would be a big upgrade. Next thing would be an increased battery size. And that's kind of like a good thing, bad thing for most of us. If you have these cameras before, if you had the RX 100 series before, you know you have these batteries hanging around all over the place. They're cheap on Amazon because they've been out a while, but they don't last very long. Everyone knows it, everyone deals with it. So if they could develop a little bit larger size battery for their next camera, that would be nice to have that longer battery life. Will I be upset if it has the same battery? Not really. If you give me all this other stuff, no. But all this other stuff is going to be more of a drain on the battery. So they had to come up with something to make this battery a little bit better with all these extra things that we're going to hopefully add to the camera. So what am I looking at basically? I would love a baby ZV-E1 in this camera. Give me the most you can in this camera without overheating it, and that would be an incredible pocket-sized camera. Now I want to talk about some of the things that I think they're going to be a pretty much no-brainer guarantee they're going to go into the next version of this camera. First off, USB-C, a must. That's going to be absolutely done. No questions about that. Let's keep it all in the same plug-in ability, right? Everything's moving that direction. That's an old camera. It still has a micro USB. We want USB-C. Makes it life a lot easier. Easy. Touchscreen. The best case scenario would be the ZV-1's touchscreen on the back of this camera. Not only where I can just choose whatever I want to on the camera, but also can swipe left or right to bring down other menu systems that would be a nice touch. If I just get the ZV-1F touchscreen on the back, that's good too. I like that touchscreen. It has all different fast menu stuff right here on the side. Quickly change, start recording, stop recording, quick adjustments along the way. My guess, it's going to be the same screen as the ZV-1F and same touchscreen as the ZV-1F. That's my guess. Also, the new menu system will be an easy add-on. We're all going that direction. It's going to plug that new menu system in here. That's going to be on there. Maybe another thing is a new microphone. I hope they update the microphone on here. This was our first version of it. So give us the latest and greatest version from the ZV-E1 with front, back, all that kind of stuff where you can kind of optimize it the best for your environment, what you're doing, or an auto feature where it basically picks up whatever voice is around you. So an increased microphone on here should be an easy upgrade. I call it SAD. It's Sony stabilization, SAD. It's either standard, active, or dynamic stabilization. I would assume that would come here also into this camera. The dynamic would be very interesting on this camera to see how gimbal-like we can get this thing without having to use a gimbal. So I'm looking forward to that and testing the stabilization on here. The active on here, again, everyone has probably tried it if you have this camera, it's okay for walking, but nothing great. Also, hopefully it adds the new LUTs and cinematic mode into this camera that the ZV-E1 has. The new LUTs, like we're in the ZV-1F, you can kind of play around with FL, all that kind of stuff. That should come to this camera because the old menu system has a lot of other features that were basically going to go away, like the high frame rate. I love that. I will miss that if I sell this camera. Is almost 1,000 frames per second. Basically, you can set it up, prepare it, and then sit and hold it and wait for that play or whatever to happen, and then hit the button to record like 2 or 3 seconds of what just happened. So if your kid's at plate and you're waiting for him to make the swing and you don't want to record the entire thing, high frame rate was great. That kind of hold it up, wait, he swings, makes the hit the button, record that instant happen. Does that make sense? Record that shot in slow motion greatness. So now we have the S&Q mode like we have on most of the cameras now. Slow and quick, 120 frames per second in HD, or you can use it as a time-lapse feature, 1 frames per second. So that will definitely probably come to this camera, and we will probably lose forever the high frame rate mode. Sad. But that's the way they're moving. All right, let's talk about some of the bad things that can happen that people will not be happy about, including myself, if Sony changes or doesn't change this. All right, if we come out with this same version and we still have the 24-70 lens, that's going to be a big miss for Sony. Because that would mean when I'm out filming and I'm vlogging and I have it on dynamic stabilization and I have it on 60 frames per second, you're going to look at my eyeball pretty much at that point. So you have to get like a long selfie stick to get that actually in-shot look. We can't have that. Sony knows that. These are designed for vloggers, right? So design them with a wider angle. So 24-70 can't be in there. If we lose the ND, it's not going to be great, but as long as we have the ability to screw on the ND filter, that's key. All right, so they can't lose the hot shoe. The hot shoe went away for the ZV-1F, probably gets more of a budget style camera. This should definitely keep the hot shoe on top, because how can you sell the ECM G1 microphone that basically would slide right in here and make the best vlogging setup? So something like this, I don't anticipate the hot shoe going away. If it does go away, that is a big no-no for Sony. You're selling your microphones, right? Everybody wants a cordless option. This is the best setup right here with this microphone on top. The ZV-1F went down in frames per second. They went to 16 frames per second. This guy right here goes 24 frames per second, and it's a beast, dude. It is, you put it on high for the continuous shooting and you hit that button and it is just so freaking fast. I hope you don't lose this. Dude, That's fun. I don't care what you say. When you're taking pictures with this, like a sports, and you're out in the field and you go, "Brr," that's fun. Who wants to talk about price for this camera? All right, so right now the ZV-1 is on sale at B&H for $248. I wish it was. Correction. It's for $748 right now on B&H. The ZV-E10 with the kit lens right now is $798. So my guess, it needs to fall somewhere in there, which is not much leeway between. So my guess, it's gonna stay around that $750 mark in the US price for the ZV-1 Mark II. Will they say Mark II or will they say ZV-2? I don't know. I would rather the ZV-2, kind of makes more sense to me than the ZV-3, the ZV-4, all that kind of stuff. And then you would maybe increase like the ZV-E10 to the ZV-E20 or 15, something like that. And the ZV-E1 would be the ZV-E2. I think that makes more logical sense than going ZV-1 II Mark II. I don't know, but they have some crazy naming features with their cameras. So that's my take on this camera. It comes out at the end of May. Andre from Sony Alpha Rumors has been talking about this camera pretty much on every Sony style of camera he's talking about. So he'll add that in at the end. Be advised, we still have the ZV-1 next generation coming out at the end of May. So he's fairly confident that this is coming out at the end of May. So also one clue is I have not seen a lot of speculation videos like this one I'm doing right now from the bigger YouTubers out there. And why am I not seeing that? This camera is released by the end of the month here, and we're a couple of weeks away from that, and no one's really talking about it, which means to me they already have the camera, they're embargoed, and they're not going to speculate about a camera that they already have. So I think this is pretty much a done deal. So when they release this camera, however they're going to do it, you're going to see all those YouTube commercial reviews out there about the camera right off the bat. And that's why no one was talking about it ahead of time. That's my thought. All right. Again, I am definitely going to buy this camera when it gets released. I will pre-order it. I will compare it with this guy right here. We'll do some tests. But in order to see that, you need to subscribe to the channel, get your notifications going so you won't miss out, and leave me comments down below asking me to test certain things about the camera. Right? I have no information ahead of time of what I've seen on Sony Alpha Rumors. So I'm going off with the history of Sony, what they've kind of moved to before, what they're going to, and kind of put that together for this video. All right. If you want to talk about the RX 100 Mark series, is that ever going to come out again? I don't know. He mentioned something with the RX possibly coming out sometime this year. I could see them going to the RX 100 Mark 8, but that's a different video. There's a lot of, I can see there's a lot of money out there for that right now, because we're getting into a lot of different cameras that are coming out that kind of like Sony, make have Sony like, huh, Fuji's doing really well with this. Leica's coming out with the Q4. They're all pumping out these high cost specialty point and shoot style cameras. Maybe we should get back in that game again. I think they will. All right, have a good one.